that's George Carlin. He's like, people say soon. When's
Oh
your
yeah,
mother
the
gonna
community
be
game.
home? Soon. And we're live with another episode of BS Busters right now, not soon. Thank you for joining us. Before we go any further, we have some of the usual suspects, but we have a new one of our newer members, Louis. But once again, we're gentlemen here. We let the lady go first, then the new guy, and then myself, and we'll dive into it. So let's get it started.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all ages, to the BS Plus Annually Podcast for the final one of this month. I'm Jory Ilmustar, and oh, not again.
It's not the final one
We
this
just
month.
had to get back in there.
It's not the final one this month. We have one on the 30th. That's going to be it's the one before April Fool's Day. 2 days before April Fool's Day. Go ahead, Louis. Introduce yourself.
Greetings, guys. Name's Louie. Glad to be here. New guy, go easy on me.
All right. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner prior to BS Busters, and we're about to dive into.
I'm here too.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself.
My name is Kenoshi. My name is Kenoshi Abominito, and we could have a future another CPU manufacturer enter the ring, because NVIDIA announced a few days ago they're making CPUs it's not going to be like consumer CPUs.
It's going to be on the server side.
Servers.
Yeah, I don't trust it.
So, yeah, I mean, we could see in the future they cut down that CPU and put it in consumer stuff, but who knows?
I don't trust it with NVIDIA just because NVIDIA hasn't been making CPUs. Like, AMD's been making CPUs for years. So has Intel.
Yeah.
But, I mean, some new guy. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. Okay. I'll wait. I'll give him 5 years.
And because NVIDIA doesn't necessarily have a secret or have a past where they started making CPUs and then got back into, not like Intel that made GPUs and then it's getting back into the GPU game.
Well, I mean, they started with just chips, just chips in general. But I mean, CPUs are basically chips. So they started in the game, and they've always been in the game. AMD began as making chipsets and cards and stuff like that, and stuff like that. But NVIDIA, I'm like, if I want a graphics card, I'll talk to you. But chipset, CPU, I don't trust it. But anyway, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner prior to BS Busters. We have some interesting topics for tonight's cast. We've got Amazon's failing gaming initiative, Final Fantasy Origin being a flop, GTA Online getting a subscription service, but only on console. Dragalia Lost is being discontinued. Activision Blizzard shenanigans. PlayStation is purportedly going to reveal their subscription-based gaming service next week. And we'll give our thoughts on that. And then we're going to nominate our A-hole of the week. And before we go, those are the topics. So let's get it started. Amazon is failing their gaming initiative.
Why not surprised there?
Well, considering they've only had one successful game, and it's a game that they didn't make. Like, the guy who's the head of their gaming initiative has zero experience in gaming, in the gaming industry. This was the guy who, they released Crucible. Crucible flopped. They unreleased it, put it back into beta, and then canceled it. Which is just, I mean, the Amazon's gaming initiative has been run like amateur hour. And I don't mean amateur hour if someone said, here's $1 billion, create an MMO. I mean amateur hour someone gave you $1 billion to create an MMO and you literally never even looked at other MMOs. Ever. And that's basically what happened. Amazon's New World just got a public test server 2 months ago.
And how did that turn out?
Well, I mean anyone here who knows anything about MMOs, typically speaking, before you roll something out to all the players, you try it on the public test server to see what works, what doesn't work, to put it through its paces. So you have this huge MMO that did not have a public test server for almost a year after it came out. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a major problem
Yeah,
because stuff was being released and breaking the game, and they had no way of fixing it.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot of their current works, and it's none of this stuff stuck. Like, I think the only game, and it wasn't even by them that I know about, is Killer Instinct. I think they only own Double Helix that developed that.
No, well, yeah, they bought Double Helix, but Double Helix isn't owned. Double Helix doesn't own Killer Instinct. Killer Instinct is owned by Microsoft because it's an IP that belonged to Rare.
I see.
But yeah, they bought Double Helix, and it's just like Amazon is just sad. It's sad, and now the guy who's the head of it is like, well, I'm taking time to spend time with my family. Isn't it funny that whenever someone messes up in any industry, they always have to go spend time with their family? Has anyone ever noticed that?
No, I'm sure if you did a
That's a
background check, they're actually single.
It's like, oh, Senator, you were caught messing around on your wife. Well, I'm gonna take some time to spend time with my family. It's like you really, you really don't care about your family.
Yeah.
Oh, you lost your company $200 million on what should have been a sure bet. Yeah, I'm gonna take some time to spend time with my family. Yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Sure you are, buddy. I trust you. Actually, I don't. So Amazon's failing gaming initiative dropped out, came out, and as we can see, they only had one game that's actually done well, and that's Lost Ark.
Lost Ark.
Yeah, Lost Ark.
And they didn't even make it. They published it.
Yeah, it was made by Smilegate.
Yeah, but I mean, like Amazon just brought the game to the West. They didn't make that game, so they have one success. New World started out really strong, but they didn't have the infrastructure behind it to support it and the proper systems in place to make it a success. So suffice it to say, like Amazon's gaming initiative is just failing.
Yeah, no, they've not left a single dent, and they're not even word of mouth. At this point, I'd say stick with what you know.
Yeah, just keep on selling them books, Amazon. But they also bought what was it called? Amazon also bought they also just bought what was it? MGM. So
Oh, wow.
stick to making James Bond an Amazon exclusive and selling books and everything else. And Jeff Bezos, who looks like a Bond villain himself, should stick to that instead of trying to make video games.
He's just gonna turn around in his chair, petting a cat on his lap.
Yeah. Or in the case of Jeff Bezos, just a midget who looks like him.
Oh
Called
my
Mini
God.
Zos, Mini Bezos.
Oh.
I think, Mini Zos would have been a better name.
Mini Zos. Mini Zos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that.
You expect me. You will give me the codes to the missile, Mr. Bond. I'll tell you nothing, Jeff Bezos. Nothing. Oh, you'll talk, Mr. Bond. You'll talk. Or I'll show you pictures of my dick.
I'd like to think Minizos laughs like that little creature that's with Java.
Yeah. Well, actually, he did that. That's how he got divorced. He sent pictures of his. He sent pictures to his girlfriend.
Oh no.
Thank you for the image.
Yeah, I'm like, Jeff Bezos, why did you send pictures of your junk to some lady when you already, like, your bald head, your face looks like a dick. So you could have just sent a picture of your, she just sent a picture of your face. I mean, and besides, you're like the world's richest man. Look, you could be hung like a flea, and women would give you play because you're rich.
Well, the thing is, right? A lot of these big billionaires and zillionaires, they sleep around with their wives all the time. The thing is, right?
Yeah.
They're allowed to do that as long as they don't embarrass their wife.
Yeah, that's why she divorced him and took half his stuff.
Yeah, they're out.
And she earned it. I mean, let me put it this way. This woman was with him when he didn't have shit. This woman was with him. She gave him 4 kids. And when he was running the business out of the house, she had a job and helped support his dream when he was trying to build his business. So she deserves half his shit. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Someone helps you build your business, you fuck around on them, you give them half your shit. That's just the way it is. Dims the brakes.
Here.
Because if I was a man and I was married to a woman, well, I am a man, but if I was married to a woman and I was working, busting my ass while she was getting her business off the ground, and I helped put money and sweat and supported her while she got off the ground, and she became a billionaire, and then she's sending lewd and nude photos to some outside mofo, I'm getting half her shit.
Some words flying.
I'm having a divorce. I'm getting half her shit because I helped her accumulate that wealth.
Fair is fair.
That's just the way it is. So, but enough about Jeff Bezos, who looks like a Bond villain. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I'm not surprised, and I'm going to have a feeling that this is not going to be the last time we hear of this.
Amazon's failing gaming initiative? Yeah, I'm not surprised, because Amazon, why would you put someone who has no expertise in gaming in charge of a multi-million, if not billion-dollar gaming initiative? Like that? That's like me saying, hey, have you ever been in charge of a kitchen? No. Well, you're the head chef. But I've never been in charge of a kitchen before. You're the head chef of my restaurant. That's stupid and asinine, but that's what happened.
Well, just as they enter the scene with almost no fanfare, they'll exit without a single bit of applause either.
Well, the irony is that people were looking forward to New World until they found out that it was a game that initially was going to be PvP. Then, when it was 2/3 of the way through, they figured out, oh wait, people don't like the PvP. We'll add a PvE component. That flopped. And then the PvE was very bare bones in the beginning. And it's still very PvP geared, but the problem is that because they didn't have a public test server, professional gamers, hardcore gamers, but found the exploits. So now you can't even play the Guild Wars battles if you're a new player, you can't even play the Guild Wars battles because the high tier players have basically monopolized the maps.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, New World is basically, unless you're basically SOL. Unless you're part of the early big guilds that have claimed a huge march and a huge amount of real estate and bennies in New World. And that's the problem because, it was just poorly run from the start. But that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the next topic. Final Fantasy Origin. A game that no one asked for.
Nope.
Nobody asked for.
No one was asking for this.
I mean, sometimes you get a game that nobody asked for, nobody thought they wanted, and it turns out to be a hit.
Like The Messenger or Shovel Knight.
Or maybe even a Hades.
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Nobody was expecting Supergiant Games to make a roguelike game, and their first roguelike game and it being successful, nobody was thinking about that. But then you get this mess.
Yeah.
You get Final Fantasy Origins.
Yeah. Game that
nobody was asking for it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It came out, it hit store shelves, nobody still wants it.
Yeah, it's lingering like a wet fart. Final Fantasy Origin. Now, so I was thinking to myself, I said, Final Fantasy Origin is the fourth lowest selling Final Fantasy game or Final Fantasy spinoff in history, according to Japanese sales data.
Oof.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
God.
yeah. That lingering wet fart stinks. But with that being said, I was thinking to myself, what are 5 things I would have rather seen Square Enix produce besides Final Fantasy Origin? And I said to myself, I said, you know what? I think I can do that list really quickly.
Oh.
Since they seem to have a predilection to taking their old IPs and revamping them. I'm using air quotes here when I say revamp because Final Fantasy Origin is a Souls game using Final Fantasy as the moniker. Wouldn't it be cool if they took Final Fantasy 1 and like remade it in a more modern engine, maybe the engine from Final Fantasy, like the Final Fantasies that were on the DS.
Oh,
That.
it's sort of Bravely Default fashion.
Well, that wasn't the same engine. The DS version, like Final Fantasy 3, like that kind of isometric engine that made it like 3D, slightly deformed models. If they made it in that engine, added more job classes, added more areas to explore, fixed some of the innate problems with the original Final Fantasy 1, maybe added some content from Final Fantasy 2 and 3 in there, or maybe just combined all 3 games into one huge game, that would have been cool. I think people would have liked that. We didn't get that, though. We got Final Fantasy Origin.
Yeah, Origin is just composed of a lot of things I'm just repulsed by. It's by Koei Tecmo, which is not really a developer I'm particularly fond of anymore. Neo, Nomura Designs, and it's Final Fantasy 1, which I mean, not a terrible games by any means, but I don't think anyone's out here getting hot and ready for a Final Fantasy 1 retelling. And especially when I saw that trailer, oh my goodness, it was just painful. I really don't see how people could think that the ironically bad dialogue. Well, I don't even think it's ironic. I think it's unironic in how badly it's being presented. How that could even carry the game.
Yeah, it when I saw it, I was like, "What the f is this?" And the more I saw about it, I'm like, "This is gonna be terrible." But I didn't know Koei Tecmo was the developer behind it. When you said Koei Tecmo, it makes so much sense because Koei Tecmo loves getting farmed out bad stuff.
Oh yeah.
Hey, we're gonna make a Legend of Zelda game, but it's gonna be a Warriors game. I don't want to play a Legend of Zelda Warriors game. Too bad you're getting it. You're getting 3 of them.
Well, Team Ninja to be specifically, but it's Koei Tecmo still.
Yeah, I don't like Warriors games. Except
Neither do I.
there's 3 Warriors games I like, but there's a mountain of them I don't like. Like I like the 2 Hokuto no Ken, aka Fist of the North Star.
Yeah, that's the one I hear the best ones about.
Well, it makes sense. Like it makes sense if you're doing Fist of the North Star to have your character going around fighting groups of dudes and punching them and dudes exploding. Makes sense because if you've watched Fist of the North Star or read the manga, that's what Kenshiro do.
Yep.
Yeah, like that makes sense. Over the top action in Fist of the North Star fits. Berserk Warriors makes sense because
I had
Berserk
no
is
idea that was a thing.
yeah, there is a Warriors game using the Berserk IP. Makes sense. But after that, I'm just like, I don't want to play Legend of Zelda like this. I don't know.
Nope.
No, I don't. And then they
You were
did
saying-
Dragon Quest, and that was just terrible too.
You were saying 4 other things you could name?
Pardon?
Oh, you were saying 4 other things Square Enix could have done instead.
Oh yeah. They could have done a remake of Bahamut Lagoon. I would have enjoyed that. They could have done a re-release of Final Fantasy. Like if there was a game that I could see Koei Tecmo doing like a single player type of that would work really well is Mystic Quest, because Mystic Quest's combat was like that, where you would go into a dungeon and the enemies, you could see them and you could fight them. Like that would make sense. No. Why do oh god. And then let's see, the 5th one is let's see, I did remake. Yeah, the fifth one is I would like to see it. I mean, why don't they do a remake of well, I would say do a remake. I already said do a remake of Final Fantasy 1. Why don't you just do like if okay, you want to do just do a remake of Final Fantasy 1, just make it just use like a more modern RPG engine. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a straight up port. No, Final Fantasy Origin.
Yeah, no, Origin to me is just the apex of what I've just looked at as Square between the years of 2008 and 2020. Just straight up drab, overly technical trash.
I could see that.
Yep.
Like Square Enix these days is just like, oh, how can we disappoint you this week? How can we disappoint you this year? What can we come out with that you weren't asking for that's going to be some BS once it finally lands?
You think this is just a perception of the East, and maybe somehow this game ends up becoming some crazy smash hit here in the West, or
No,
is it about this? Oh, okay.
no, it's going to flop everywhere. Because the thing is, it's basically a Souls-like game. But if you're gonna plop down $60 on a Souls-like game, wouldn't you rather spend it on Elden Ring versus Final Fantasy Origins?
You don't even have to ask twice.
You know, it's like they're both $60.
The answer.
They're both $60. Which would you rather spend $60 on? A game that has like a lot of people are saying this game is good, or a game where you're like, it may or may not be good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it looks so like Final Fantasy Origin looks so uninspiring. It's embarrassing. Like if you look at the environments, they look bland and you know, it's
Yeah,
really lifeless, and it's just kind of like what.
and I
What,
just really
what
don't even get the intention because the original Final Fantasy one was some sort of big lampoon of Dungeons and Dragons, all the workings of your regular fantasy adventure. And this, I just don't even know what I'm looking at.
I mean, they basically they make no they make no subtleties to Dungeons and Dragons and the OG Final Fantasy, the first Final Fantasy. Like there are even monsters that are either designed or are closely named to monsters in Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, to be honest
I
with
don't know
you,
what they were going for.
to be honest with you, because people in Japan were playing D&D games, like they were like they got into D&D too. Like Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy stole so much from D&D. Like corals are blink cats. Or not blink cats. They're a monster in D&D that's the equivalent. That's the feline equivalent to a blink dog.
Yeah, same thing with Mind Flayers and Arimans, I believe.
Yeah, Arimans in Final Fantasy are beholders. That's what they are. They're beholders. You know, it's like everything. Like goblins are goblins. Yeah. I mean, it's just they steal whole, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like they could have done some really cool stuff, and they just failed at it. It's like. Right. Square Enix has just been like, hey, we're gonna try and make an MMO, and we're gonna give it to platinum, but we're gonna hamstring them so that you can't get the platinum level gameplay.
You already have an MMO that's successful, and the fact that it's probably becoming more successful than WoW is.
Okay, breaking news!
No.
Amazon Games boss Michael Frazzini, the guy who was taking time off to spend time with his family, he's resigning as head of Amazon Games.
Goodness. He literally said, you're not going to do this to me. If I'm going to go, I'm going my way.
No. What probably happened is that he was probably called in by his bosses, and they said, you can either be fired or resign. You can either leave your way, or we can have you escorted out.
I mean, we can either give you a nice little sweetheart deal, a nice little severance package, and you can be on your way, or we can ruin your life. Which one is it gonna be?
Well, I mean, the hilarious thing about it is that even though I've talked a lot of shit about Michael Frazzini, but the thing is that he was with Amazon for 18 years, but he was not equipped to run a game studio. That wasn't his area of expertise. It's like if someone came to all of us here and said, "Hey, we're going to put you in charge of NASA's astrophysics division." No one here is qualified to be head of an astrophysics division.
I'd say I'd resign too.
Who the world is?
The people at NASA who have degrees in astrophysics.
Now, do you think that this is them going to find someone actually capable, or this is just the beginning of a wrap for Amazon games?
I think they put too much money into it at this point to just shutter it. I think what'll happen is that what Amazon will probably do, because Jeff Bezos Amazon has like one share of Amazon's like $3,300, so they have a lot of money. I think what Amazon's going to do is this. I think they are going to. I think they're going to go and poach someone from either Ubisoft or Activision, Blizzard, or EA. They're going to poach someone who's been the head of a video game studio before, and knows how to get games out. And I think they're going to put that person in charge of it. Because they don't have anyone internally who has that skill set. And they thought that they thought someone who was good at selling books and Amazon services could also sell video games. But that's not, those are two completely different skill sets.
Video games are a video game. That's the problem with a lot of these big companies. They want to get into video. It's kind of like the '80s all over again, where you get people.
Oh, like you would have something like the General Electric Gamer 63, like just all of those consoles stocking up the 80 shelves.
Quaker Oats publishing or making videos.
Yeah, they made a Kool-Aid game. They made a Kool-Aid game, a Kool-Aid Man game. Which actually, if they made a modern Kool-Aid game, Kool-Aid Man game, where like you're trying to escape because the Kool-Aid Man keeps on busting into your house. Oh yeah, that'd actually be pretty terrifying if you actually had the money. But this was on the Atari where the graphics were trash, so no. I mean, sometimes when companies get into something, it could be awesome. Like Quaker Oats funded the creation of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, which is a great movie. I mean, it flopped at its time, but now that's like a cult favorite. Right. But you also get stuff like Mac and Me, which is one big commercial for McDonald's. So
I guess the worst case is stuff like Pepsi Man.
I mean, Pepsi Man is kind of enjoyed ironically. I think
I figured as much.
Pepsi Man is enjoyed ironically. Like, I think most video games based on big products are not very good, except for maybe Cool Spot. Cool Spot's pretty fun. But Cool Spot has a legitimately good base gameplay. It just happens to star, Spot from 7-Up.
So, in regards to Square, doesn't Stranger make this like their 7th stinker in a row? If I'm correct, I think they're Stranger, The World Ends With You, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers.
Guardians of the Galaxy did well. It's just not selling. It's like, okay, they were thinking that game was going to sell like 10, 15 million, and it sold like 7 million. But since when is 7 million at $60 a pop, because it hasn't really been reduced in price,
right?
A failure. That's just Square Enix over. It's
overreaching.
Well, they overestimated how much that game would sell. Not to mention, it's coming from the same publisher that gave us Marvel's Avengers, which soured the pool. It was the turd floating in the pool, because that game is not good at all. So they had Marvel's Avengers was a flop. Babylon's Fall was a flop. Balan Underworld was a flop. But that wasn't an expensive game to make.
Yeah, that game. That's so, because usually Naka, I mean.
Yeah, but
what about the Sonic games? I mean, it did make an impact.
Balan Underworld was an expensive game to make, so even though it didn't sell all that well, it wasn't like they didn't spend $100 million on it to make that game. They didn't really give them a lot of time either, did they? No, and most of the development for that game was farmed out to a much smaller studio, so it was cheaper for them to make. So it was a flop, but it wasn't like, oh my god, everyone's going to lose their jobs. It was
a big flop.
Yeah, no, it was a flop, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like
it lost them huge amount of money, right?
Yeah. Like, the studio wasn't shuttered because of that. I mean, it was shuttered, but not because it lost a lot of money. It was shuttered because the one game that it was created to create didn't do well, but not because they lost a ton of money. So Balin Underworld, that's 4. Then Final Fantasy Origin flopped. What else?
So The World Ends With You. I
The
don't know if
World
you
Ends
counted
With You. Another game no one was asking for flopped.
that.
Let's see, what else? What other Square Enix game just did not do well at all? Oh, Chocobo Racing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
7.
yeah.
7 games, just not like Square Enix has just not been doing well, and I think I know the reason why. Because a lot of these games that they keep on greenlighting that have been failing are games where some executive at Square Enix got greedy and greenlit this and didn't think about the logistics and trying to appeal to a specific market, or it was very surface level, trying to reach for the market, not at a deeper level. So, you know, it's just not good. It's just not good.
Right. I hope they come to their senses and realize that they're the individual's name who makes those Octopaths and those games, the Final Fantasy 14, that their real money is in those divisions. They call it Division 3, I believe.
I mean, I guess, but Square Enix hasn't been good since they merged with Enix.
I mean, they want that AAA. You know, they want that AAA status.
Yeah, they want games as a service.
Everybody has to. Yeah, that too. The games as a service, the AAA status. I don't know why people are chasing the AAA status and games as a. I mean, I get it. The games as a service, just because. Well, you can essentially just keep charging for the same game over and over and over again.
Well, they want that recurring transaction. You know, they want someone to spend $8, $9, $10, $15 a month.
You think that's why they're going this angle of re-releasing 7 Remake, not just in parts, but in practically fractions at this point?
Yeah, so that they can keep on. I mean, like why should they release a complete game when dumbasses will buy a portion of it? And then, because I remember going on websites and saying, this is not cool, this is only part of the original game, and they're charging $60 for it, or $70 in some cases, and people jumping on me like, oh, how could you say that, it adds all this. That's not the point. It's literally they're charging you for a third of the original game. There's something wrong. There is something wrong with a company doing that.
They added so much pointless bloat.
For a game.
You know, and it's not right when any company charges you for something that had more content in previous installments. That's not okay. That is not okay. It's not okay when the Pokemon company sells you a game that has less Pokemon than the previous installment. That's not okay. But if you say that, people get angry. You know, oh, I just want to play my games. It's like, okay, fine then. If you like getting screwed over, I mean, I would take umbrage at it, sir. But you know,
of course,
I don't like people taking advantage of me.
But speaking of being taken advantage of, that GTA subscription service.
Oh yeah. GTA has added a subscription. That's a nice segue. GTA Online has added a subscription service, but it's only on console. It's $6.99. It's $6.99, and you get some really nice bennies for your $7 a month.
Oh wow!
As far as someone sticking a knife into you, they're only sticking the tip in, so it's not that bad. If you're fat enough, it's not even piercing the skin; it's just mildly uncomfortable. So it's not that bad.
Personally, I can only assume that, since I think a lot of the audience for this game are particularly younger people, I can only assume this will spell the end of it on consoles at least, or maybe this will be such a perfect play that Rockstar just doubles in size from all the money.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be the latter because they are only charging $6.99. Like, $7 for a subscription service for a PC game, for a console game that's sold gangbusters. And they don't have to put that much work into supporting GTA Online at this point. Yeah, they're just going to be just making a lot of money because there's going to be dumbasses like, I want that $500,000 every month. And it also cuts back on some of the prices you have to pay in order to maintain your lifestyle in GTA Online. Yeah, people are going to snap this up in a heartbeat.
You hate to hear it, but I guess it could have been worse.
Yeah, Strauss Zelnick is the devil. He is the devil.
So, what? Just a possibility, a hypothetical. What if this had happened on PC as well?
PC gamers probably would have not gone with it because PC gamers typically are more savvy than console gamers.
True.
Typically, like a PC gamer, like stuff that console gamers just deal with, a PC gamer will get mad about. For example, the re-release of Persona 4 Golden on Steam. Like, it's basically a port of Golden with like the really bad, the voice actor change and the intro change, and the extra content's nice, but they changed a lot of stuff. Like, a console gamer just got to deal with it. Oh, I got to play this inferior version of this game on console. PC gamers, someone went in and found out that it's just a skin on top of the base game, and they undid that and put the original version of the game in priority, so you get all that content. You just download a patch and patch it, and you can play the original game on PC with the extra content added to it. And
good to know.
PC gamers can do that, like console game. Like, if you're like, okay, like I've said this before, the Switch version of Skyrim is the worst version of Skyrim because it's the base version of Skyrim that Bethesda has never fixed. So if you're playing it on the Switch, all those bugs and glitches, that's what you're playing. The worst version of that game.
That's crazy to hear. Oh my god.
But if you had it on PC, you could download a patch and fix like 85% of those bugs. And then download more patches to fix the other 15, and then have a really good game to play. But no, you got the Switch version of that game, and Bethesda did the same thing to gamers on the PS4. Like, that was where most of their microtransactions for their Creation Club happened, because like on Xbox, the Xbox version of Skyrim has like 70% patch support. Like, you can download patches to make the game more playable without having to go through Creation Club. On the PS4, you don't have that. You got to go through a curated museum of stuff they want you to have, and it's just like, nah, bruh. Nah.
Well, on Rockstar. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but if you're a console player, you're gonna get shafted by these publishers and studios. So that's what's happening.
And good.
No, go ahead.
All right. Now, as I saw on Rockstar, because I was just looking at this article where Crunchyroll's now getting rid of ad-supported streaming and going full subscription. And I was actually wondering, you think this new $7, $6 fee, I forgot how much, will set as dangerous precedent? Maybe another big publisher probably follow suit for their own online service?
I mean, they'll keep on adding money to it. I mean, they'll keep on raising the price year over year. I mean, they're all like, even Nintendo's doing it. Like remember when Nintendo came out with their online, and everyone was like, $19 a year, that's nothing. I'll pay that. And then they're like, we're adding N64 with, at the time, kind of underwhelming emulation for N64 games, and some Sega Genesis games that are just kind of like underwhelming too. And it's like, we'll charge you $50 a year. Well, now you're approaching $60, which is the base price of most of these online services.
Right,
so,
right.
I mean, that's what all these companies are doing. They want that recurrent transaction model so that they can continue to make money doing the bare minimum on their part.
Well, I guess at this point, it just lays on the consumer just to be a little more wise with their funds.
Yeah. Well, the hilarious thing is that, the people who make excuses for this say, well, they have to maintain their servers. You do realize that like 85% of the games on all these consoles are leveraging your internet connection. So whatever you pay for your internet connection, you're already paying for the online. You're basically paying for something that is not your responsibility. So, I'm not cool with it. I don't think it's cool. These companies are just taking advantage of people. And I don't like
Right.
it.
Hmm.
Well, while we're talking about an online services flourishing, let's talk about the one that's coming to a close. Dragalia Lost. First time actually hearing about this game in particular. I'm hoping you guys can shed some light on that.
I don't. I've heard of it.
Um,
I don't. I haven't really.
I was gonna say, I'm the one. I'm the one that actually touched mobile games, but even I haven't played Dragalia Lost.
I remember when it was announced because everyone was like, "Oh man, Nintendo's getting into mobile games." And Dragalia Lost is the studio behind it was K2, I think.
Mm,
And K2, they're known for abandoning games that aren't performing well. Like they're like,
mm,
"F it, I'm out." If a game isn't performing well, it gets the axe.
I see.
So I'm not really surprised that it's not. I'm not surprised that they're dropping support. And the people who are complaining about it, I'm like, why? Because I mean, like this is the same company that when Mario Racing Tour wasn't doing well, they just said, "Well, f this stuff, I'm out." Like
Wasn't that game just
Yeah.
announced last year too?
Racing Tour, no, the Racing Tour was like 2 or 3 years ago. But
Oh
people
goodness.
people looked at it as a passing curiosity, and then saw the aggressive microtransactions. Like, hey, you can pay for
Mm,
tokens to have more races. It was some BS. And
ugh.
I mean, it wasn't the most aggressive, but it was kind of like, come on, man. Um,
That actually gets me thinking about Nintendo's venture in the mobile market recently, because right now I think their biggest money makers is Pokemon Go, and that Fire Emblem one.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I played the Fire Emblem one when it came out because I was a huge fan of Fire Emblem, and the microtransactions weren't too aggressive, but it was still kind of like underwhelming for me. Like me, I think Nintendo should just focus on their software, on their hardware. Like I think
Okay.
mobile games are kind of just it
Out of their league.
well, it hurts
I
the
just thought it
brand.
was a way for. Yeah, I just thought it was a way. I just thought it was a way for them to advertise. I thought that was, and then they kind of got a little greedy. But yeah,
Yeah, because they saw the money.
yeah, they should have just stuck. If they were gonna stick with the whole mobile game thing, they should have stuck
And
that as a way of advertising to.
I'm pretty sure their Pikmin
People.
mobile game is gonna follow soon.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that I think that when Iwata, because Iwata was the guy who was in charge of like spearheading this when the Wii U wasn't doing that well. I think this was just him saying, "Look, listen, shut up, get off my back. This will keep the investors quiet while I work on the Switch." And Iwata up and died, and
Mm,
the other people carrying it got greedy. Because I mean, a lot of the stuff Nintendo's been doing now under Kimishima and Furukawa has been really greedy and kind of
Yeah, they've been doing some weird
backhanded,
stuff.
yeah,
yeah.
shady.
Like, They just implemented folders. Like, why did it take so long to implement such a basic feature?
And from what I hear, it's not even perfect how they implemented it either.
Oh, it's not even good. Oh, you've waited 5 years to implement folders, and it's not even good.
Yeah, I think what you
Well,
have to
damn it.
do, it's only accessible from your all software section, if I'm not mistaken.
So they couldn't even. So they had 5 years and they couldn't even get it right when they finally put it in there. Oh, that's you know.
Was the Switch just kind of a stopgap to make again, like you're saying, to make their investors happy? Was
I
it just sort
think
of just a
here's what I think, and I'm going to be I'm going to try and be very circumspect in how I say this. I think that the Switch. I think that Iwata was dying, and I think that he was like, I don't want to go out on the Wii U. I think like he knew that he wanted to get something new out, and I think
Hmm.
that by the time he got his new thing out, like he didn't want to leave on a sour note, and I can understand that. Like he didn't want his legacy to be
I
that.
honestly, I
Um,
honestly think that's probably why the Wii U was such it had a rough sailing because he was sick a lot of that time. Obviously, you didn't see it in the presentations because they're pretty good at hiding it. But
I mean that could have been the case.
The Wii U.
That could have been the case, but here's all I'm saying. I think that the Switch was rushed. I think that they needed to get something out. I think that they wanted to wash the stain of the Wii U out of people's mouths, because the Wii U was a victim of the Wii success. Because like here's the problem with Nintendo. When Nintendo starts to do really well, they start to get arrogant and get their ass up on their shoulders. Happened during the Wii. It happened during the NES. Like Nintendo got arrogant, and then the Genesis came out and kicked their ass in North America until they came out with the SNES. And then Nintendo got arrogant with the success of the SNES going into the N64.
And it carried on into the GameCube too, I'm sure.
No, the GameCube was the N64. The GameCube was when Nintendo started to actually not be as arrogant. And then you go into the Wii, where the Wii, when it first came out, they had some dynamite games, first party, second party games for the Wii when it first came out. Then, like the third, fourth, fifth year, they started to get arrogant yet again. And this is when you had like months where a game would come out, and when it did, it was some bullshit like Wii Music.
Oh Lord,
I stand by that. Wii Music is some bullshit. But they could afford to do it because they had over 100 million units sold, and they were selling software. Like the DS was selling well. The Wii was like they could afford to be a little arrogant. But they carried that over to the Wii U, and it's like just stuff wasn't working the way it should. And the Wii U, like I'll be honest with you, if you gave me a choice between which modern Nintendo console that I like the more, the Wii U or the Switch, I'll take the Wii U every time, because the Switch has a lot of issues. But the Switch basically, like they basically, Nintendo doubled down on the Wii U without double downing, telling people they doubled down. Because basically the Switch is like, okay, we're going to take the gamepad, but the gamepad is the console. That's what the Switch is. And they're even selling you Wii U games on the Switch. And people getting sold the same shit the second time or loving it the second time. Games they shat on the Wii U.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even know. They pretend like the Wii does. So it's like, what's a Wii U?
Yeah, no, I hear it a lot. Like when everyone's asking Xenoblade Export when, oh, you had your chance, buddy.
And not just that, but considering how poorly the Switch runs playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Breath of the Wild, I would not want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Switch.
Oh no, I hear you.
That game would run like hot buttered ass.
That game, they're definitely not going to port that game just because how much the gamepad is involved with it. I mean,
the gamepad wasn't really that involved with it. not really. You could map that easily to the second thing, but just in terms of its functionality and and how the game runs and stuff like that, like you can run that. You can play that game on the Switch. It would run No, go ahead.
No, it's a big key difference, because Xenoblade 1 and 2 were open world technically, but they were more like large zones as opposed to Xenoblade X's, which is truly open. It was just one large monolith.
Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X had a lot of pop-in, and if you download the data packs, it was diminished. You're not going like Xenoblade Chronicles. Like, okay, I remember playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on the Switch, and I would warp to an area that had a lot of stuff going on, and the game would literally be struggling to load that area. Fast travel. Yeah. Like struggling. I'd see my characters, and then I'd look around, and you would see the underlying geometry of the level struggling to load the area.
Yeah, or all the textures wouldn't look right, so the characters wouldn't have their proper textures.
And that's why the game that's why the game struggled that's why the game kind of struggled to run. They were using Unreal.
That's what I was going to ask. If they were using Unreal.
Yeah, they were using Unreal.
To have that.
Yeah, but it doesn't
had that problem for years.
It doesn't matter what version of Unreal you're running. Here's what people need to understand about the Switch. The Switch is using a heavily modified, but a processor from 8 years ago. that wasn't top of the line 8 years ago.
And it's the Tegra. It's the Tegra processor that NVIDIA used for their Shield tablets and their little TV console.
It was at best mid-tier 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And Moore's law is in effect. So, like I was talking with Quan earlier today, and I said that, I'm looking forward to Metroid Prime 4, but I hope it's not on the Switch because I don't want that game to be stripped down and compromised to run on 8-year-old hardware. Because
that's true.
I've played every Metroid Prime game, including Federation Force.
Oh.
And I think Federation Force suffers because they had to strip down features. Like Prime is like one of those Prime is one of those grand bellwether type games. It's like Prime is kind of like one of those studio films from back in the day when Hollywood studios were huge that were like epics, like The Greatest Story Ever Told or Gone with the Wind, or it's meant to be this marquee title that showcases the power of the hardware. And I mean, like every other Metroid Prime game has expanded the series. Like the first Metroid Prime, you're on. Is it Zebes? Is the main planet in that game? Or
Zebes. Yeah.
I can't remember, but you're on that planet that you have a basically. They use some tricks to basically make you think you're exploring a large chunk of a planet. Then the second game, you're exploring a planet, but then like it's Dark Echo and Dark Ether. Okay, cool. So you got 2 areas. Metroid Prime 3, you're exploring multiple planets and a space station. Like every game, they're expanding on it and building on it. The Switch can barely run certain games well, and I don't want to play a Metroid Prime game that's being held back so that they can put it on hardware.
I hear you. As much as I enjoy the Xenoblade games, and I'm impressed with what they can do with their much weaker hardware, I do believe they shouldn't have to. Like when I'm playing Shin Megami Tensei 5 now, and if I see a demon maybe 10 feet away from me, oh man, look at those choppy 15-frame animations.
Yeah,
I mean, the AMD
Pfizer.
Their FX software. It's basically their version of DLSS. I mean, the magic with that can only go so far.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not against. I'm not. Look, I just don't want one of my favorite IPs because I like the 2D Metroid games. Actually, no, I shouldn't say like. I love the 2D Metroid games, except the ones made by Mercury Steam. Fuck that studio. And I love
Dread.
Yeah, I don't like Dread either.
Okay, I haven't played it. Just asking.
I played it and I'm like, I went to a friend's house and I played it and I was like, this like Dread feels to me like someone played Metroid Fusion and had the moments of terror of being hunted down by the X parasite suit.
Yeah, SAX.
The SAX Samus suit, and said, "What if we multiplied that times 6?" That's what Metroid Dread feels like, except they made Samus faster and more acrobatic. And I'm like, this is cool and all, but I would have preferred cel-shaded graphics. And
I'm with that.
Like I don't like this 2.5D look for Metroid.
I
don't like that.
I actually like it. Not bad.
I'm not. Look, if you enjoy it, knock yourself out.
You guys are just hating.
I would have preferred.
Wait, would you like something like Shantae, where they got some animation studio?
No, I would prefer them to stay with the cel-shaded graphics they did in Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion. Like if the 2D games stayed that art style, and then the 3D games just went 3D. Because the cel-shaded art style, the pixelated cel-shaded art style of Metroid, to me, looks so much better than the 2.5D shit they do now. Like, I remember playing Samus Returns, and I'm like, this is ugly. Like, this does not look good. And it wasn't because it was on the 3DS. I'm like, this is ugly. This is not a good-looking game. and it's adding too many Prime elements to a 2D game, which just doesn't really work in a 2D game. I mean, that's what kind of hurt Metroid Other M, was that they added Prime shit to a 2D Metroid game, which is weird.
Now
that's why that fan made game of Metroid 2 remake, not another remake.
yeah, it was.
I thought it was better.
Yeah, I played the Not Another Metroid 2 remake, and I gotta tell you, having played through and beaten the Mercury Steam Metroid 2 game, and then the one made by a fan, I'm gonna have to give it up. The fan, like, I prefer the fan-made version of Metroid 2 over the Mercury Steam version.
I'm hearing similar things.
And the reason, and it's not because, this is not to poo-poo anything on Nintendo. I'm not going to say they shouldn't have taken it down because it's their IP and they do whatever the fuck they want with it. My issue is that the fan-made remake is based upon Metroid 2, the original game. It's an expansion of that game. The one made by Mercury Steam feels like they wanted to ape a lot of shit from Metroid Prime. And I don't think the 2D and 3D games should cross the streams like that.
Now, it's really funny. I think this is the second Metroidvania they've let you down on, because aren't these the same guys that did those Castlevania Lord of Shadow games?
Yeah. They fucked up Castlevania. Like, everyone's like, yeah, Nintendo bought Mercury Steam. And I was one of those people like, oh shit, Nintendo bought Mercury Steam. Well, maybe Nintendo can make them into a better studio. No, they still are kind of a shit studio. Mercury Steam has only made one game that I actually like, and that is what was the name of that game? I have it somewhere in here. Scrapland. They made Scrapland. But that game was designed by American McGee, who is like a legendary American developer. So like, they had a good person in charge of planning that game. But like Mercury Steam, like all their other games have just been underwhelming for me. Like those two 3D Castlevania games that were just God of War ripoffs sucked. The 2D Castlevania Mirror of Fate sucked. Mercury Steam just, I'm not, like, just.
I hear you.
They're not that good of a studio. Like, I'd rather have Retro fucking make a 2D Metroid game over fucking Mercury Steam. Ugh, that game is fucking ugly. Ugh.
What's Scrapland on? Everything?
It's on PC.
PC.
It's on PC.
Oh,
Scrapland originally was on PC, and basically Scrapland is a game where you play this robot who comes to this planet called Scrapland, which it's heavily implied in the lore of the game that it's actually Earth, that humans have basically polluted the ever-living shit out of, that's been taken over by robots. And the robots basically, like, it turns into this political thriller where a robot is basically using a fear of humans to basically go around murdering his enemies. And your character plays a reporter who's trying to find out what's really going on. And your character's special ability is that he can hack other robots and take over their bodies, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like if you like Beyond Good and Evil, but you wanted it longer with more varying gameplay mechanics, then Scrapland is pretty good.
I think it actually got a remaster recently.
Yeah, that's what I got. I got the remaster because I remember playing it on PC back in the day, and I was like, this game's awesome, but my PC's not good enough to play it very well. Because I was in college at the time, and my PC was a piece of shit. It wasn't even running Windows XP. It was like running like Windows ME or some shit. And
oh, that looks exciting. Well, I guess we have the one last topic of companies that often disappoint us. Blizzard.
Yeah. Activision. Well, actually, no. Let's do PlayStation first, and we'll cover Blizzard last. PlayStation is supposedly releasing their Game Pass style service. They're gonna announce it next week. So first of all, I want you guys to tell me what you think it's gonna be, and second of all, I want you to tell me, are you looking forward to it? Best case scenario or worst case or realistic scenario?
best case scenario, it's like a Game Pass for their console where you can have access to a curated library of their newer stuff, so their published stuff, and their older stuff, as in maybe going back to PlayStation. That is what I'm hoping. But what is probably going to happen? It's probably just going to be some BS. That's probably what's going to happen because it is Sony.
Yeah, it is Sony, and Sony manages to snatch victory from the jaws of snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They're like, we almost had it, but we had to ruin it because we're Sony.
As for me, best case, as he said, Kenoshi said, a Game Pass Live subscription service with either equal to or greater, but that's absolute, like, idyllic best case. My realistic take, though, is looking at their PlayStation Now plans. They had some really exorbitant plans that just turned me away immediately. Like, I expect $100 a year plan to play all of our current, or maybe even some stupider. They charge you $60 a month instead, but you'll have access to all their new releases immediately. And unless they make it exactly like Game Pass, nothing else would interest me.
Yeah, I mean, with Game Pass, you pay especially with Game Pass Ultimate, you pay $15 a month and have access to a lot of Microsoft's first-party titles as well as certain new games that come out. Not even so much just their first-party titles, but that there have been cases where they've had on release day and date that you're able to play it through Xbox Game Pass.
You think they'll do something similar to NSO where their starting price is something a little more reasonable, but just to get all those brand new PS5 or relatively recent PS4 releases, they'll stack on another 40 for your trouble?
Yeah, because it's Sony. They'll jack it up. They'll pull a Nintendo and be like, hey, it's only $10, $15, maybe $20 a month for the base. No, because Nintendo was like $20 a year. And then, like, in the fourth year, they jacked up the prices to $50 for the Nintendo Switch Online, which I still think is overpriced for what you're getting.
Well, Sony doesn't have. I'm not making excuses for them, but Sony just doesn't have the money to throw around like Microsoft. So
no, they don't.
They can't.
They don't have the money of Microsoft, and they don't have the IPs of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like Sony is like Atari, where people are like, hey man, they're making an Atari retro console. And then people start listing the Atari games they remember playing as kids. And it's like, that's not Atari. That's Namco. That's Konami. That's Capcom. It's like, none of those are Atari games. Like, if you want Atari, you're talking Asteroids and Pong.
Yep, unless you're a true Sony enthusiast, you're saying stuff, hey, remember Ape Escape, Parappa, Killzone? Yeah,
I like Killzone. No, I mean, Sony will probably be like, "Hey, remember Siphon Filter? I like Siphon Filter.
Oh, I love Siphon Filter.
I love the two games. I love the two Siphon Filter games. I like Siphon Filter more than Metal Gear.
Fair. I go ahead. Sorry, Kenoshi.
Oh, I was gonna say the top first-party game that. The top first-party game that people play on PlayStation is, I believe, GT7, Gran Turismo 7, or Gran Turismo in general. That's their best-selling game.
It's their highest-selling IP, first-party IP, is Gran Turismo.
First-party.
That's their highest. But the thing is, Gran Turismo on almost every console gen has sold in excess of like double-digit millions. Like it sold 20, 30 million per console.
Yeah.
So that's really not embarrassing. It's the problem is that Gran Turismo is really expensive to make because they have to license all those damn cars and tracks. It's expensive.
See, if they would listen to an old niche player like myself, they'd bring back Twisted Metal, but of course they won't.
I never was a big Twisted Metal fan. But then again, I'm not a David Jaffe fan. I think David Jaffe is how can I put this nicely? Overrated. Yeah, overrated. David Jaffe's overrated. Oh my god, they have a chocolate banana brownie recipe. I gotta save that because I love chocolate and I love bananas.
I'm not surprised.
And chocolate and bananas go so well together.
Oh yeah.
Like chocolate and peanut butter.
Yeah, like chocolate and peanut butter, but bananas and have any of you guys ever had like a chocolate banana where they take like a
It's
slightly
been
ripe
ages since I
banana
had that.
and they
Yep, frozen.
dip it in dark chocolate? Yeah, I mean, it's so good. Oh,
Oh yeah, they're a delicacy in a lot
yeah,
of Spanish markets.
yeah. Love chocolate bananas. Anyway, um, yeah. I mean, Jewel, do you have a best case scenario?
Hmm.
PlayStation Game Pass style. Best case scenario and then reality. What do you think it's going to be, and then best case scenario, then reality of what it's probably going to be, because it's Sony, and Sony
Uh,
snatches defeat from the jaws of victory.
if you ask me, the best hope would be actually having a working system that doesn't crash every 12 months and maybe actually rival Microsoft a little bit. But in reality, I see we're gonna get 1 month fault. I mean 1 month before something goes wrong and more headaches.
Could you imagine if it was just as bad as drip feeding Sony titles as Nintendo has been with their online NES and SNES games? This month you guys get Bloodborne and Killzone 2. Next month you guys get Twisted Metal 2 and I don't know, Ape Escape 3.
Nintendo was worse with their Nintendo Switch Online. Nintendo was like, okay, we're launching the service. You get 20 NES games, and you get like 30 NES games. You get like 20 SNES games, and then they'd go like 4 or 5 months, and you'd get maybe 2 or 3 games in the 4 or 5 months, and then maybe 3 or 4 after another 4 or 5 months, and then they just go silent, and you wouldn't get anything.
Yep.
It's like, the sad thing is that we got 427 games on the virtual console on the Wii, between all the different consoles and arcade ports,
Oh, what good days those were.
and we don't even have a quarter of that now, and they're charging people $50 a year for this.
If I'm not
It's embarrassing.
mistaken, I think the Virtual Console just unexpectedly went offline this week.
Yeah.
That was the
Well,
Wii Virtual Console.
yeah.
They're trying to. I wish there was a way that you could still get those games, like
Mhm.
still re-download them. Like this is the problem with modern gaming, is that, and I remember talking about this on a podcast years ago, where it's like, at some point these servers gonna unplug the servers, because, and I hate to tell everybody, but it costs money to keep servers running 24/7.
Well, the issue
Yeah.
isn't that they have to that they're gonna the issue isn't that they have to unplug the servers. The problem is that Nintendo isn't doing this because they have a better solution for how to give people the ability to purchase and play these games. Nintendo is doing all this so that they can basically pull these games and then charge people $50 a year to play them on an inferior internal emulator. Games that are emulated poorly, and that they can drip feed them out bit by bit and charge people $50 a year or more, because I guarantee you, at some point they'll probably add another console and add another $10 and make it $60 a year to bring it in parity with Microsoft's Gold and Sony's online thing, and they're going to be like the other two, because that's money they're leaving on the table, and they're just going to do it. And as a Nintendo fan, I can no longer feel that feeling of superiority. Well, at least the company that I tend to buy a lot of stuff on isn't screwing me over like Sony or Microsoft would. No, they're doing the same thing. They're all equally just as bad.
Predatory.
Yeah, that is that's the problem. It's like, I mean, you bring up a good point. They're not offering a better solution. They're not offering like some sort of service, or you know like some sort of retro service where you can download these games, or have access to these games. There's some sort of either subscription, or like why not have a special deal where you can download these games through to your computer, and then have a special system where you can either put them on your Wii or Wii U or 3DS through like an SD card.
Mhm.
I would love that.
Use an emulator.
Or even better, like I don't like the idea of paying for a subscription service. I would rather just have the games be for sale. Like raise the price. Like
Yeah,
make the
they could
NES
do
games
that.
$5 a pop. Make the SNES games $10 a pop. Make the N64 games $15 a pop. And if they add GameCube, 20. I'd rather pay for a license, just be able to download the damn game and play it on whatever console I want, versus having to pay $50 a year for poorly emulated games. And I know people are like, well, they fixed the emulation. Yeah, but the problem is that these games were better emulated on last gens of hardware than they are now, which is embarrassing.
They sort of, well, I
Mhm.
wouldn't call it a solution, but it's sort of a halfway, because I know they used to do it a lot during the fifth gen when Capcom would release a lot of those collections, like those Mega Man X collections, those Mega
Yeah,
Man collections,
yeah.
and now they do it with those Castlevanias and beat 'em up bundles. I know that's not the perfect answer, but what's your thought on them just sort of bundling like that, like with the Super Mario All Stars thing?
I thought Super Mario All Stars was an okay compilation. I think it was a little overpriced for what you were getting. I
Mm-hmm.
think if they wanted, because it was $60 for 4 games,
Mm-hmm.
64, Sunshine,
Well, 3 games, I think.
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, $60 for 3 games. I think it should have included Galaxy. I think it should have had Galaxy 1 and 2, 64, and Sunshine. Now I don't like Sunshine.
I don't either.
I think you could make the argument like 64 had to be there because it's Mario 64. I think if Nintendo had been cool and really given a fuck about, the anniversary, they should have included in 64. You could play the original 64 or you could play the DS
The
version of
DS.
64 that had all that
Yes.
extra content. That would have been cool, but that takes extra work, and Nintendo right now just like when it comes to their old games, to their vintage games, it's like they don't give a shit
Mm.
about a lot of stuff. Considering that their emulation for a lot of their older games is trash, um, compared to previous consoles. I think that Sunshine. A lot of people like Sunshine. I'm not a fan, but it should be there because it is the 3D All Star Collection, and I think it should have had Galaxy 1 and 2. I think Galaxy 1 is great, but Galaxy 1 takes a while to get started. You have to go through a lot of you have to go through some stuff until the game really opens up. Galaxy 2 immediately gets you into the action. Plus, Galaxy 1 has a few nitpicks where I'm like, I don't like these motion controls. I know they kind of fixed a lot of that in the re-release, but remembering some of those levels where you had to use the Wiimote, and this is before Wii Motion Plus, so it was just really shitty Wii Motion, and it was just like for semi-precise things, and it's like this is not working. Fuck this. I think that like overall, I think that the Mario 3D All Stars was okay. It could have been better. Like I don't want like anyone who even likes it can't say that it was the best re-release of those games that we could have gotten, because it isn't.
Now, this is just wishful thinking. I think something that would have improved it for me is including some of the 2D Mario games that come out in the interim between 64 and Galaxy.
I mean, I think it probably I don't think it would have fit there because it is 3D All Stars. But if they did a re-release of Super Mario All Stars, but if they were like, okay, look, this is Mario All Stars, it's an $80 game, but we're including all the 2D Mario games, all of them. You're getting the original Mario Brothers, Lost Levels, Mario 2 USA, Mario 3, Super Mario World, not Yoshi's Island because that's not Super Mario World 2. You're getting New Super Mario Brothers, New Super Mario Brothers 2, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, New Super Mario Brothers U. That's 9 games for $80. That's a good price.
Yeah. Well, on the topic of scummy company activities, how about that
Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard.
every week?
So, not every week, but I mean, they can't stop themselves. It's like Bobby Kotick is sitting next to a basket full of turds that he can stick his hand in. He can't stop himself from sticking his hand in there. It's like, man, that's a basket full of turds. I gotta get my hands on it. So basically, Activision Blizzard and 5 named Activision Blizzard Entertainment employees are the target of a new lawsuit filed on behalf of an employee of the company who alleged they experienced sexual harassment and discrimination and were retaliated against. Bloomberg Law reported Wednesday. Let me screen share this so people won't say, "Oh, you're just saying some stuff."
Shooting something into the wind.
There's a method to my madness. So the employee in question, referred to as Jane Doe by her attorney Lisa Bloom, first came forward last December to publicly speak out against what they allege is the company's alcohol-soaked culture of sexual harassment and frat boy culture detrimental to women. According to the complaint filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court, Doe's experience with sexual harassment at Activision Blizzard date as far back as 2017, when they began working as a senior administrative assistant to executives in the company's IT department. The complaint alleges that Doe was subject to multiple sexual advances by her supervisor, including unwanted touching and kissing, probing questions about her personal life, including an invitation for casual group sex, and retaliation for complaining and writing to Blizzard's then president, J. Allen Brack, about the sexual harassment they had experienced. Doe applied for an open executive position in November 2021, but after speaking at the press conference in December, says that their application was rejected. For years, Activision Blizzard's open frat boy environment fostered rampant sexism, harassment, and discrimination, with 700 reported incidents occurring under CEO Robert Kotick's watch, the lawsuit says. The lawsuit seeks damages and orders requiring Activision Blizzard to waive arbitration of sexual harassment and gender discrimination claims, to implement a rotating human resources department to prevent conflicts of interest, to retain an outside, truly neutral investigation firm or agency, and to implement an anti-retaliation policy, among other orders. Wednesday's lawsuit is the latest in a series of legal actions against Activision Blizzard, dating back to last summer when the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH, sued the company for fostering a workplace culture of gender-based discrimination and constant sexual harassment against female employees. Yeah, I don't think she's lying.
Yeah, no. After some point, once, what's that phrase? Once a coincidence. That, yeah, no. I think what is that, like at a dozen complaints?
Yeah, well, no, 700 cases of documented, which means, because, if you're a sociology major, you know that when women report discrimination or sexual harassment, that means that it's gotten to the point where it's happened multiple times, but it's gotten to the point where it's come to a head. That means it's happened even more than that, which means that, if there's probably 700 people that reported it, there's 700 reports, it's probably happened in the thousands.
That has been reported, of course.
Statistically, it had to have, that weren't reported, what I'm saying. There has to have been thousands that haven't been reported. And, but, it's Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, no, at this point, I'm beginning to. They use the word fraternity or frat bro, but I'm literally beginning to think that Activision is literally just a bunch of a beer koozie or a beer hat wearing frat bro developers. That's literally the image I have in my head right now.
That's what it sounds like. But the thing is that when I was in college, I went to some frat sponsored parties, and I've never in my life
came across something like that.
Yeah, I've never in my life come across people doing stuff like this. Like some of the horrendous stuff I heard they were doing at Activision Blizzard, like going under desks and looking under women's skirts while they were under desk in a cubicle crawl. Like some of the stuff these people have done, I'm like, this is not frat boy. This is.
Yeah,
that's just worse.
That sounds almost 50s discrimination right there.
I mean, they didn't even do that in the 50s though. Like this is foul.
Right.
This is some Revenge of the Nerds shit from that first movie where they do a panty raid and sneak a hidden camera in the girls' showers.
Right.
Like it's I mean, this is some foul stuff.
See, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of attitude they grew up with too. That was a contemporary film for a lot of those employees there. I'm sure they're probably thinking to themselves, "Well, I saw it in a movie once."
I don't know. I think this is just a
Yeah.
case of them having power. They're like, I have power and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want because I have power. Like when you give people power and you don't have checks on that power and they can do whatever they
Hmm.
want, they're going to do whatever they want
There's going to
because,
be something that's going to go wrong, and it's going to be because they got so much going on in their head.
well, there's a
Hmm.
saying and I forget who says it. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. When people have power over other people and there's no checks and balances to their power, this is what
I think
happens.
it was I think it was Lord Acton who said that. Oh, some European philosopher.
Here, I'll look it up. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Might be wrong.
John Dahlberg Acton. That's what I'm getting.
Acton, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it's Star Trek. That's where I know it from.
Oh,
Yeah.
It was it's a proverb, and it was done by Lord Acton. Um, absolute power corrupts absolutely. He borrowed the idea from several other writers because good ideas never happen in a vacuum. And
Yep.
the whole complete saying is power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men. That is true.
Hmm.
And he later on went on to say, unlimited power is apt to corrupt the minds of those who possess it. So essentially, you have a group of people who don't answer to anyone, who have no checks and balances to their power, their own little
Right.
fiefdoms. And as long as they continue to produce games that made money, didn't matter what they did.
Hmm.
And I mean, like I keep on saying this, all of the executive board of Activision Blizzard need to be fired and get nothing.
Right.
Nothing. No handouts, nothing. Just gone. Run out of the industry.
Course.
Like you can't ever work here ever again.
It's the only recourse I see.
You know, Bobby Kotick is rich anyway.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think with the frequency of which I'm hearing about this, their reputation's just it's not quite shot yet, but you're hearing a lot less chatter of that Overwatch 2, you notice?
Yeah. Well, they screwed the pooch with the. I mean, obviously it's their reputation that damaged Overwatch, but they really screwed the pooch with Overwatch. The first game, I heard the community was getting real toxic, and
Well,
Maybe they're a magnet to that sort of attitude.
I mean, not just that, but I mean, like every other battle royale game is constantly getting new characters, constantly getting like stuff is being changed. Overwatch was in a vacuum where there's been like one new character added,
Hmm.
like over the last like 5 years, one new character.
Right.
You know, that's some Nintendo. That's some Nintendo adding folder shit right there.
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
I mean, my point is this: you cannot support an audience of a game by just basically just resting on your laurels. But considering that every time they wanted to do, like, the main core team has been working on Overwatch 2, and every time they went in to try and work on it, someone would come in, or like an executive would come in and make them change it, interfering with the golden goose. You know, I'm
Mhm.
not surprised. Activision Blizzard is a horribly run company, and Bobby Kotick should be fired. And I keep on saying this to people. They're like, no, come on, man. Y'all know Bobby
he was
Kotick
a
should be
good.
fired.
He was a good man. He was misunderstood.
No.
You know,
Way after the
he made
L, but
money. He made
true.
money. He made money. Look, as a CEO, a CEO's only job is to manage people and make money for their shareholders. And in that regard, Bobby Kotick made a lot of money for his shareholders. Good for him. But in terms of managing, he failed on his first thing, which is to manage people. He sucked at it. Terrible at it, at managing people. So, yeah.
Well, I guess I guess we'll see another article soon. Following Mike from Amazon, Bobby Kotick decided to resign.
No. Bobby Kotick's not going to resign, because if he resigns, he's not going to get his golden parachute.
The
Bobby Kotick is
world.
going to hold on till he can get his golden parachute, and then he's going to say, well, he's probably going to give to some philanthropical organization, kind of like that asshole guy who knocked the shit out of his girlfriend in the NFL, and now he's like the NFL spokesperson for domestic violence. I'm like, dude, we have videotape evidence of you knocking the shit out of your girlfriend. Knocked her cold out. Knocked her out. And here's the thing. The way you knocked your girlfriend out, you've been knocking her out, okay? This is not something you just did once and, oh shit, I'm sorry. You've been doing that.
Wait, how recent was that?
This was years ago. They ran him out of the NFL, but now he's the spokesperson for domestic violence in the NFL, which I'm like, really? For real?
The world can be so cruel sometimes.
You know,
there might be a new guy who's gonna be the spokesperson for domestic violence within the next couple of years, because he almost knocked his I think it was his ex. He was throwing her around.
No, he married her. He married her. She married him, and her father's like, yeah, well, they have to work it out. I'm like, look, if I was a father and I saw a videotape of my daughter's fiance knock her cold the fuck out and drag her out an elevator like he's been knocking her out for years, I'm gonna tell you right now, that
Somebody's
motherfucker
gonna get killed.
when I get him, I'm not gonna kill him. I'm gonna fuck him up. He's not gonna have an NFL career when I'm finished with him because his knees, his arms, his elbows, his ribs, I'm fucking him up. And if I can't, and if I'm too old to fuck him up, I'm gonna get some friends together and we're gonna get some baseball bats and fuck him up together. Because he ain't gonna do that to my baby again.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna kill him, but you're gonna kill his career.
Yeah, fuck him. Fuck him. Look, let me tell you something. If you, I mean, and people, like, the thing is that the people who tried to do, well, she spit on him. Doesn't fucking matter. Unless a woman has a weapon, as a man, you can get out of the situation. You can grab her ass, push her down. You can get the fuck out of there. There's tons of shit you can do to get out of the situation, aside from knocking a woman the fuck out.
Right.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, fuck that guy. I don't like violence against women, and like you can go look it up. Like the NFL player, I think he was at the time playing for the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, and he just straight up knocked this. I mean, and because the NFL initially tried to play it off, they were like, "Well, we only giving him a suspension because we only saw part of the video," and then someone leaked the whole video where he was in the elevator and knocked her the fuck out, and then dragged her ass out the elevator, which means he's been knocking her out because, like, the first time you hit someone and you're not supposed to do it, you have that reaction. Oh, I'm sorry. The way he did it, he been knocking her the fuck out. It's not
Ray Rice. That's what his name was, Ray Rice.
Yeah, Ray Rice. He been knocking that girl the fuck out, and her dumb ass married him. And her father, oh yeah, well, it's like, no, motherfucker. Look, your whole family ain't shit. That woman ain't shit because she stayed with a man who knocked her the fuck out. And the father ain't shit because I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a father and I found out someone was beating my daughter, I tell you what, show me the hand he hit my daughter with. That hand's getting broken.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. He was a lot of these, NFL players, their families they get money. They probably either get hush money.
Oh, I know.
They get money from. So they're like, oh well, no, it wasn't that because they didn't want the money spigot to run.
No, I understand. I understand the money value, but as someone who comes from a family where a lot of the women in my family are domestic abuse survivors, like I don't think living a comfortable life is worth getting the shit kicked out of you.
Yeah, where's the integrity?
Once a month, or once a week, or twice a month, or whatever the frequency of your ass whoopings are. I don't think it's worth. Like there's no price point on self-respect. Like I'd rather be poor. I'd rather get a divorce. If I was a woman, I'd rather get a divorce, go back and live with my parents for a few years until I got my shit together, so that my kids had an example of me being a person who didn't take that shit. Then you just sitting there taking it and saying, well, your father's a good provider. Yeah, he gives me a black eye and knocked out my teeth, but he's a good provider. He broke my arm, but he's a good provider. Money can only assuage so many problems after a certain point. But that's just my own personal opinion.
I'm with you 100.
I could be wrong. But that's the end of the podcast. We went a little bit over. Anything you guys... Oh, yeah, we have to nominate our Asshole of the Week. So we have our nominees for the Asshole of the Week. We've got Square Enix, PlayStation, Sony, Amazon, Activision Blizzard. I guess we could say... Nintendo is just being Nintendo. They're not assholes. They're just oblivious sometimes. So we got 4 nominees. So who's gonna get it?
It's gotta be Bobby Kotick for me.
Yeah, gotta be Blizzard.
Gotta be AVB again.
I was trying to evade these guys.
Okay
They
then.
keep on coming back.
Well, I mean, when you're a company that's run by a human piece of shit with the bad hair plugs, I mean, it's gonna stink. You know, I mean, you know.
Is he like a young Mr. Burns or something?
No, Bobby Kotick is a guy who got hair plugs in the 90s, but apparently he didn't spend money on the good shit. So you can clearly tell he's got hair plugs.
I was gonna say he bought El Cheapo.
No, it was probably like hair plugs. Hair plugs are one of those things where it's like early hair plugs, even the best is not that good. Because medical technology and medical procedures have come so far from what they were 20, 30 years ago.
And he got those.
Yeah, when he got his hair plugs, it's like clearly, yeah, those are hair plugs, and they're not even good hair plugs. But
yeah,
anyway,
no, his head looks like one of those dishwashing scrubs.
Okay, here's how Bobby Kotick's hair plugs look. Bobby Kotick's hair plugs look so unnatural because you can tell by the shape of his head he should have less hair on his head. Like you can look at people and tell, oh, you're losing your hair. Your hair should be thinning. And his hair is just like unnaturally, like the part where his hair should be thinning is unnaturally thick, and it's just a bad hair plug.
Right.
It's like
that's why I was just like, you know, yeah, that's why I was just like, what, you know, because I started losing my hair early. It's like, oh, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't pay for good hair plugs or be like a black person and just shave it all, just sheer and be like, look, I'm Jordaning it or shacking it or barkling it. If you can't shave it clear or get some good hair, some hair extensions or a good wig or get that hair club for men or do that thing where they take shit from the back and put it in the front. Like if you can't afford good shit, just don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's any type of cosmetic surgery. If you can't afford the good shit, don't do it. But anyway, so yeah, once again, Asshole of the Week, Activision Blizzard. No surprise because they just can't help themselves being pieces of shit. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's try to wash them off and not mention them for a week. Hopefully.
See, you know, it's up to them. If they don't do shitty things, I won't talk about them. But it's Activision Blizzard, and they can't help themselves.
At this rate, I'm expecting here that they have an illegal dogfighting ring and eat babies or something.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those suites, like they go in there, except it's not dogfighting, it's intern fighting. It's like, I bet my intern can beat your intern, and they make the interns fight it out, and whoever wins gets a $50 bill.
Oh, Jesus.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had that at Activision Blizzard. Like if someone said, hey, you know, Activision Blizzard has intern fights where the interns fight for $50, which gets added to their check so they actually get a little bit of extra money so they can actually survive. If someone said that, I would not doubt it, just with all the fucked up shit that's come out of that company.
I wouldn't be surprised that instead they just paid him in Warcraft gold.
What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Play Warcraft! Play World of Warcraft! It's like, I don't play MMOs. Well, you better figure out something, because this is what your paycheck entails. No! You bastards. Okay, that's the end of the cast. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up? Nothing?
You guys.
Kenoshi, you want to pimp out your channel?
Project Console, 7:30 Tuesdays. Be touching on some of the Nvidia news as well as the GT7 stuff that's been happening. People have discovered exploits to get money faster and other stuff. So check you out. See you Tuesday.
All right. Louis, you have anything you want to pimp out?
Well, I don't even think I need to, but play Xenoblade 3 when it comes out, people. That's all.
Okay, all right. I guess I'll pimp out what I want to pimp out. So yeah, working on upgrading my PC's RAM so I can stream at the same time I'm playing games. Because for reasons that will go unannounced, my OS for my current gaming PC is a RAM hog.
Mm.
Damn you, Windows 10. So yeah, upgrading my RAM so I can actually stream and not feel streaming and game running slow down, stuff like that. So look forward to that probably next week or the week after next. Also, we will have our last podcast of March this Wednesday, the 30th. There won't be a BS Busters April Fool's cast because April Fool's is going to be that Friday, and we don't stream on Fridays. We stream every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. every week, almost every week. BS Busters, Eastern Standard Time. Jewel, take us out.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for the last BS Busters. The last Saturday BS Busters of the month. Don't forget to join us every Saturday and Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. EST.
All right.
So good night, and hype responsibly.
Peace.
Peace.